This is the Joseph Curtis channel. I'm here with my friend Tim, and we are here to discuss, in spoiler format, Thor Love and Thunder. Please do me a huge favor. Click that like and subscribe button. That would really mean a lot, but let's steam on ahead. Let's talk about this film. I liked it. It's not the greatest MCU film. It's kind of like the same feeling that I have with Doctor Strange 2, honestly, where I thought it was fine and it did a lot of great things. And there was some issues that did kind of pull me back from the film. Specifically with this film, it was the comedy at times. Majority of the time, it worked for me. And if you like Taika Waititi's style, you're going to love this movie, especially if you like the comedy aspect of him. And if you don't, you're going to hate this movie. This will be in your bottom tier like MCU films. And I'm already seeing the divisiveness, like people being like, I hate this movie. Dude, this is so fresh and engaging, just like Ragnarok. It's kind of crazy. And to see where the Rotten Tomatoes score is at doesn't surprise me. 68%. Honestly, it doesn't surprise me at all. Because this is a very jarring film at times. In a good way, and sometimes in a bad way for my personal viewing. A lot of people, I guess, are feeling that sentiment of the comedy can sometimes really take away from the rather emotional sequences that should be felt. And I can share in that same sentiment where I wish I felt more of an impact, specifically where the movie goes in the last 10 minutes. I really wanted to feel a certain thing they were trying to do. I just couldn't get behind it all the way. I like the idea. I just wish there was a little bit more time to like reminisce on it.
Yeah, there was one part of the movie that I thought Thor was just really in the wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll save that. So yeah. I like the film. I have some issues. Gor The God Butcher, incredible. But if you want more of my thoughts, go up above, guys. But Tim, overall brief feelings. You can go a little bit longer than me. Give me your non-spoiler. First non-spoiler.
I know that I liked it. I felt like the movie almost felt kind of standalone-ish in a way. Like it very clearly hooks into other MCU outings. But for the most part, the movie feels like it kind of stands alone. There were some more things I wanted, but the things that I wanted didn't. I don't know how to explain it. There were just certain things, one thing specifically that I just wanted a bit more like light shed on. But non-spoiler, I thought everybody did really good. All the kid actors did a really good job. Christian Bale was really good. I don't know how I feel about him in terms of like next to other MCU villains. Like I know he's a good villain. I think he's definitely one of the better villains. Overall I liked it and I had fun with it. I had fun with most of the comedy, even though half of it was goats, but I was okay with it because goats are hilarious.
Spoilers, I love the goats.
Yeah, I guess. Is that a spoiler? Goats?
The goats
are in the trailer.
Spoilers for my feelings towards the goats, I guess. Those things were crazy, man. I can see why some people might not like it because sometimes it can be a bit excessive, but I loved it. I dug it.
Yeah, I was pretty much fine with it. I thought they were funny. But that's like half the comedy of the movie is those things. So I don't think that is necessarily, I don't know if diverse is the right word. I don't know if it has, sorry, my camera is way up here and you're way down here.
Hey, so you're good.
I think I did like Ragnarok more. I think Ragnarok had more, I suppose, diverse comedy. And I think it did more to bring the character of Thor himself into his own.
Yeah.
I think if this movie's goal was to bring other characters more into their own, it probably could have leaned into it harder. And that's about as far as I'll go before we hit spoiler territory, I guess. I know that I liked it. I had a really fun time with it.
That makes me happy because I've already been having some discussions. Like, I watched it with Alicia. She liked it. She said I would give it like a 7. And I won't say my score at all right now yet. But I was kind of shocked by that because sometimes she can be very critical. And she liked it a lot. She was laughing throughout the film. She felt some things that they were executing when it came to certain moments with Jane and Thor. I wish I felt it a little bit more. But I still liked it. And then another friend, Marcos, he gave it like a 9. He said he loved it. And then Matthew Krebs, he watched it and he was like, I just wish that there was more of Gor butchering the gods. And I was like, hey, honestly, there probably was a lot of stuff that they cut out, which
that's not
I think
unfair. And it's not like there's a shortage of gods. The movie, I don't know when you want to start talking about spoilers, so I don't want to say too much.
We can start that honestly right now. Okay. And to really like to just finish my point real quick, it's just I totally get what he was coming from because I was trying to understand what he was saying, and then that's when he said it was like I just wish there was more of him just killing rather than, oh, look, distress call. There was a moment when Thor said that line, you know, you could just bring her back. I was even like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Isn't he essentially on the verge of being reunited with her when he does that?
I think that's the thing that I'm trying to figure out when it comes to his religion and religious aspect, which I also loved in this film, how they tackled that.
It sounds like different gods provide different afterlives for their followers.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure, didn't the god that... it felt like he was from a different movie when they met, and I loved it, honestly, because I think the idea is, you know, he had this idea of, this is what my god is supposed to be. Thank you. Christian Bale killing it, as usual. And the god's like, haha, oh, get away from me, you small ant person. I am a god. You're beneath me. And I think in that moment, maybe he still thought that, oh, there is no eternal life. It's all a lie. And my life is...
But when Gor's daughter comes back at the end, she... did we say we're in full spoiler territory?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. When Gor's daughter comes back at the end, she seems like she knows what's happening. She doesn't seem confused at all. If there was no afterlife, shouldn't she be like, how the hell did I get back here? Why is my dad on the ground? Like, she seems like she knows what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing where it can go into the discussion of, like, assumptions. Like, what if it brought her back to a time, like, to her mindset to, like, when life was happy, and it's like, oh, what's happening over here? But at the same time, it's like, wouldn't she be a little bit more sad? She seemed more accepting. So I kind of believe your point more, where it's like she's just staring down from heaven at daddy, being like, there, dad, I'm there for you.
If that god is part of like, what was his name? Rapu? Something like that?
Something.
The mythology he's from, which I'm not sure, like certain gods have like 3 different names in mythology. If he's part of a larger mythology, then maybe she's in that version of the afterlife. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. But I was kind of like, they might have been on the verge of reuniting, honestly, and then he brought her back, so now she has to live again while he's dead and still separated from his daughter. But part of me understands why he would, because she never had a chance at a full life.
I could see why, like, because he took it in the sense of like, oh, he did it because of love, because Thor then said love, then Jane said she's not alone. And I can understand that, where maybe somebody would take that and be like, that's really cringe. Like, come on. Okay, whatever. Yeah. For me,
Interstellar ruined the word love.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to bring
ruined the word love for me.
I guess, you know, since we're already talking about him, we'll switch this up a little bit. We'll continue on Gor The God Butcher. That just rolled
He just
off
goes
the tongue.
around complaining to all the gods about everything.
You guys suck. You guys let me alone in the desert.
And your wine's not even good.
Gor The God Butcher, I really genuinely liked the character. I was completely engaged with the opening sequence that we get, where he's in the desert wandering with his daughter, and I do wish it was a little bit more impactful, but I really bought into, like I said, his mission, like his purpose, and then the idea of he's a devoted person and he's been praying. And then you get that line from the god where it's like, he starts laughing and says, your life is basically, pretty sure he says something like, your life is made for like suffering or whatever.
Yeah.
And
it was something like suffering for the gods
I felt
what
that
you're here for. Yeah.
like, and like, here's the thing. Like, I love, to the people who don't know, I love Jesus. I love him. He is my God. And I believe he is the one true God. But the idea of the concept of when you meet, and they said this line too, never meet your heroes. They really went into that, especially when, like, for this case, Gor, his hero, is obviously his god, the person that he seeks refuge from, refuge for, and even Thor even has that moment with Zeus, and I like that a lot. And it really, I really bought into the concept of maybe these people are not what they appear to be, and like, for me, I'm not saying that about Jesus. So for all the Christians listening, I'm not saying that.
I was gonna say.
I'm just saying it's an interesting concept. No, like, I just like the idea. It's a very tough subject, right? Like, imagine one day you wake up and you meet Jesus and it's not what you expect. Exactly. That's kind of scary. So I really felt that despair from Gor when it was like, dude, what was the point of my life? Well, screw you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to become the butcher, which I liked how the, I forget what the sword is called, but
the Necrosword, I believe.
Necrosword, yes. And the Cruel King, Null King, it's basically part of the Venom lore, where I personally thought they were going to introduce that. The symbiotes and maybe hint more towards Venom and that world, that race of those certain type of aliens, but Sony, so we're not going to get that.
They could have, the scene where they fight and break the sword, they could have broken it sooner. I was waiting for it to happen, but it didn't. Because Jane comes in, and all three of them fight each other, but when she comes in, he's already, like, gripping the blade, so there's, like, a fat chunk of the sword in the middle, and she throws the hammer at Gor. And I was like, you could have thrown it into the blade. It's exactly what she does just a couple of minutes later.
Yeah, so Gor the God Butcher, I really dug his motivation. I think it's one of the best motivations. It's not the best. It might be like in the top, 5. Not in the sense for villains. I don't know where I'd rank him, but I really like, I would put it up there for motivation wise, like for Thanos, Killmonger, Loki. Just, it was really good. And it literally was in the span of 3 minutes.
It's a lot more of a personal motivation, I think, than Thanos or Loki. I think that's what I wanted more of. Not his motivation. His motivation was good. Because they said the sword corrupted him, right? Like, I wanted to know more about the sword or the being that resides within it.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that was the thing with the film, where it had some really good ideas, and sometimes the ideas would be executed and it's like, oh, that's actually kind of dope. And then I think more than half of them would just be like, oh, that happened. I guess that's done. I guess the sword's done. I guess Gor's dead. And because I would have loved for him to still be alive. I mean, I like the idea of, the next movie being what?
Well, I don't know enough about his character to know if he's like too dangerous to just leave around or not.
He's basically how they depicted him is how he is in the comic books, where he is not really a villain at all. He becomes a villain because of the terrible circumstances that are thrown in his life. He's kind of like Job. He's the Job. That's like literally what he's the Job of Thor and Job of the not multiverse, MCU. And I really like that. And Christian Bale really brought it when it came to the performance of a man who feels like he has lost everything and nothing else matters except for this mission. And I need to destroy all gods. All gods must die. And I got that within the first 6 to 7 minutes of the film. I'm like, I'm in. Yeah, overall, I bought into him. I liked it. And I felt like he was such a presence. Like, I said these two villains when I was talking to the guys yesterday. He reminded me of a bit of a Joker and a bit of Darth Vader. Darth Vader in the sense of when he walks in, you're intimidated. And that's him, especially with his eyes. There's this
Yeah,
one shot. Oh, dude, he looks like a demon. He looks like a freaking demon. And it's the shot with the moonlight hitting him with the sword. He has the hood over and you see the eyes. I was just like, take my money.
I think I
Marvel,
remember that.
I was like, I think it has some of the best shots in a Marvel film when it comes especially to the Shadow Realm. That was amazing. That was freaking.
It was really hard to not laugh super hard when they called it the Shadow Realm.
Really? Why?
Because in Yu-Gi-Oh, if you were to lose a high-stakes game, your soul is banished to the Shadow Realm. Saturday mornings on Kids WB. So one of the plot points we haven't really touched on yet, and the trailer, I don't think did anything to reveal, is that Jane has like stage 4 cancer in this movie. In terms of story, I think it was handled pretty well. In terms of springing it on the audience, I don't really have an answer for that. Because I know some people are looking to like go to the movies to get away from things that are actually depressing. And then this movie hid one of its most depressing plot points away from the marketing. So for some people, it might have been like, well, that was not as much of a getaway as I'd hoped, especially considering she like actually croaks at the end. But
which I wish I felt more of an impact. That was my only thing about the ending. I felt like that was rushed.
I actually think, yeah, maybe that was a little rushed, but the post-credit scene where she goes to Valhalla and meets Heimdall, I thought was really sweet.
That kind of really redeemed it a little bit.
I thought that was really sweet, and I actually really liked that it's the first time since No Way Home and Endgame that I actually felt like they did something to give closure. Because Marvel's been doing a lot of things to like open up more doors, create more series and more possibilities, and not do a lot of closure. And I felt like this was a really nice piece of closure. It was very sad because this was like the gal he loved like more than anyone else, and they were like, maybe we can try to make it work. And then she's like, deuces. But I thought her going to Valhalla actually made sense, since she kind of more or less became sort of Asgardian by proxy. So it made sense, because essentially she did die a warrior's death. It wasn't battle that killed her, but she did. Her choice to go into battle was... I mean, if it wasn't one thing, it very well could have been the other. So she chose battle. So it was really sweet.
But you want to know who the best couple is? It's not Thor and Jane. It's Dwayne and Korg.
I was gonna say, is it Korg and the mustache rock man?
Do you get it? Because it's Dwayne the Rock. I was like, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. But
did not get that.
That's
really upsetting. That's so punny. It's so punny on a mustache.
That's a Taika Waititi thing right there. I was like, chef's kiss. Mwah.
That was a really interesting choice to have Zeus be like the most... It doesn't even necessarily seem like the most powerful, but he was like the leader of all the other gods, including other pantheons. So they go to this place where we don't remember the name of it, Eterna City or something weird like that, and it's a dwelling place where all the gods are. Japanese god of dumplings, which is hilarious, probably my favorite one. There's Ra. There's I think I remember seeing what I'm supposed to assume was Bacchus / Dionysus, which is a Greek god of wine. And it was a really cool idea. It didn't necessarily feel totally capitalized on, and I don't know necessarily of anything mythologically speaking that all the other gods would kowtow to Zeus like they did in this movie. It didn't feel particularly faithful to like mythology or like the written personalities of these mythological figures. I felt like that scene could have been a lot. Like, it was still a fun scene, but it could have been, like, way more bombastic, you know? Like, you have all these gods in the room who can do all sorts of crazy things, and and I feel like we didn't see much of it at all. I lost my train of thought after that.
Well, hey, we can go. Honestly, I kind of want to piggyback on the section that you actually started, which is Jane.
Okay.
And so we kind of discussed about her and the situation that she's in. I guess I'll go to the second half of her character, which is Mighty Thor. I dug that. I thought it was actually quite captivating with that storyline of the cancer, where it's like, because she's human and she's not actually a god, the chemotherapy, like the chemicals that are in her body, basically the reason why she's dying is because if she actually, was a god, she'd be like completely fine, because what's happening is that the basically the powers of the hammer are acting like, oh, this is not good for you, let me attack this, but not in a good way. It was actually depleting her life. But if you were an Asgardian, or if you were like basically Thor, it would be benefiting you. But instead, because of her, scale of humanity, she's a human being, it's actually depleting her life. And I liked that concept. Whenever she'd be donning the cape, essentially, she would be fine. And when she'd be taking it off, she's like, oh my God. I just wish that they kept her alive personally, because Homeboy's already been through so much.
Yeah, for real, dude. He's been so much, and now he's got like another.
Now he's got to be a dad. He's got to be a freaking dad now. Like, on top of all this stuff, like technically Uncle Thor, but it's like, dang, can this dude just like be in love? Can he catch a, like, literally, he lost his dad, he lost his hammer, he found out he had a sister that tried to kill him, he lost his brother, his best, like one of his close, I don't want to say best friend, but one of his close friends, like a brother, Heimdall. Thanos happened, 5 years of his life.
Dad, brother, mother, friend.
It's like, can he just catch a break? Lover. And now he's a daddy.
Didn't kill Thanos, so lost half of the universe because he didn't make a lethal hit.
There's a lot of trauma on the guy. And then, like, to have his ex-girlfriend come back in his life just to be taken away. And then also his ex-hammer, his ex-weapon, which also was a hilarious storyline between Stormbreaker and the hammer. Complete. You just see slowly.
This is the first time I knew that the weapons had a personality.
That same here.
New. Like, this movie posited the idea that the hammer and the axe, especially the axe, have like
strong feelings to them. They have strong, actually, intense feelings.
And actually, like, because he says something to Mjolnir while there's a flashback to when they were in a relationship, and he tells the hammer to always protect her, and so it does.
And I guess to close off on this part, because I know you talked about Jane, but what were your like thoughts about Mighty Thor and how they handled her having the hammer? Did you felt like it was too rushed? Was it kind of out of nowhere, or did you actually thought it was pretty well executed for her?
I thought it was good. The movie didn't do anything. The movie, it seems like Thor telling the hammer to protect her is why she can pick it up. The movie doesn't tell us if she's actually worthy or not. It just kind of leaves us to assume that she is.
Yeah. Which I thought they were going to have like a moment of her being worthy, but then you get that flashback and you're kind of just assuming.
Yeah, which again leads to this notion of like, do these weapons have personalities, or are they like just sort of enchanted? I'm not really sure. In this movie, they play them like they have personalities, which is so strange and very new and out of nowhere. I think one of the things that I thought about this movie that makes it confusing next to the rest of the MCU right now is the sense of scale. So we have them hyping up Secret Wars and like interdimensional beings. We have Kang the Conqueror and the TVA on the Loki side of things. And then in this movie, we have Thor and Gor The God Butcher approaching a being that is supposed to literally be eternity incarnate.
And that's in the comic books. It's literally like mimicking all of existence.
And
like, that's crazy.
I guess at this point, I'm just kind of wondering, like, because the first phase, starting with Iron Man and going through, the first 3 phases, going all the way through Endgame. I mean, yes, the stakes eventually build up to feel universal, but a lot of the times the stakes feel very personal. Not small. They're like big stakes, but the hero's reason for doing things is super personal. And it's starting to feel like now everything has to be like really big. Like, this is the realm of the gods. We're going to go visit eternity. This is Kang. He knows everything you're ever going to do and lives in every infinite universe. Like, it starts to get to the point where I can't imagine how you can keep going down this road without kind of tripping over yourself. Because
it becomes desensitizing a little bit.
If this world exists in a multiverse and every multiverse is infinite and every possibility that happens does happen, if they ever come across a villain that tries to destroy the multiverse, it means that in some universes that villain has to succeed. So if anybody ever tries to destroy the multiverse, then it will be destroyed. It kind of trips over itself in that way, because if infinite possibilities are fulfilled in infinite universes and anybody ever says, like, this is my plan to do it, then somebody pulls it off and all of universe should be wiped. So that's kind of my thing with like big grand scale plots like this, is the more you pile on and the bigger you make the stakes like this, especially if we're talking about an infinite possibility type of things, it's almost inevitable that you're going to like trip over yourself in some sense. I think that's part of why Everything Everywhere All at Once worked so well, because the villain was not out to destroy the multiverse. The villain, spoilers for Everything Everywhere All at Once, the villain was not out to destroy a multiverse. The villain was out to die. And to see if there was anything past that.
Yeah.
But
it becomes like, we could, like, since you're talking about this, we can maneuver to this part. Is Phase 4 any good? Is it directionless?
These all feel really standalone-ish. Black Widow was essentially a prequel. I didn't see the Eternals, so I can't speak for that. Shang-Chi was pretty standalone. It didn't even do much to hook into Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin plot point. Multiverse of Madness had the post-credit scene that felt the most like it was leading to something. No Way Home had a lot of closure in it, but it still kind of left things open. Love and Thunder we just saw. Black Panther 2, we don't know yet. So out of all these movies, I mean, honestly, it feels, again, barring Eternals, because I didn't see it, like, my favorite out of these is still No Way Home. It was so good.
It's No Way Home for me and Shang-Chi. I thought Shang-Chi was an incredible... To me, it's like Iron Man and then Shang-Chi. When it comes to origin films, I really, like, I loved it that much. But it is a little bit, I guess I can understand a perspective of, like, where is the focus? Because Phase 1 was the Avengers. That was the focus. I think Doctor Strange, this is what I'll say, because you haven't seen Eternals. The biggest connections that I can see are between Eternals, Doctor Strange, and this movie. There are a couple things in this movie that do have a somewhat connection piece to Eternals. And it's not like, oh my God, I'm understanding now what this all means. Not at all. It's not like that. It's more like, oh, that was in Eternals. That was cool. I think Fantastic Four might be the key
that might make sense
to like what all this stuff is kind of building up to, and I think it's Secret Invasion. I think that's what they're gonna have multiple different versions of superheroes coming together because what was it? What No Way Home kind of did is bridge the gap, and to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, of the idea of the multiverse. And also Loki. That's the other thing. Totally forgot about that. Loki is a huge connection piece of where the future is going. And it all comes down to different realities. Now, I think that is the focus, which is different realities. It's not necessarily, a focus like the Avengers or Thanos is the main villain. We need to stop him. Shoot. I'm thinking Kang the Conqueror is the main villain for this phase and the next phase, but I'm not even sure. I'm not going to say it's the cleanest phase. I will say there is some messes along the ride that I can clearly see, but they're not like, oh, Disney's in trouble right now. Disney's not in trouble. Disney's going to make a lot of money from this movie, and they're going to make more shows. But I am just curious to see where it's headed in this unseen future. That's what I'll say. I don't know what the future holds.
And the movie had some other weird things in it too that didn't totally make sense, but the story flowed well. Like when Gor takes Stormbreaker away from Thor while he's getting beamed up into the Bifrost, I didn't understand why Thor couldn't call the axe back to his hand. Didn't understand why not. Like those weapons have had no problem pulling people along with it before. Like,
are you talking about, sorry, what scene again? Is this the
when Gor steals Stormbreaker to open the gate to eternity, because apparently the Bifrost is the key to open the gate to eternity.
I think what happened was, because like you saw the struggle that he was trying to when he was opening up the portal or whatever at Eternity's Gate.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why. It was just so locked in, and Stormbreaker literally couldn't do anything because, like you said, like in this film, they kind of showed the idea of they have their own feelings. So in my mind, I was thinking too, like, couldn't just Stormbreaker just be like, man, get off? Like,
yeah, it yanks
I don't want to do this
around all the time.
Yeah, and I think because of maybe the sense of power of what was going on, literally could not stop it. And also is being held down by, it looked like the shadow creatures.
No, I mean when Gor stole it. Not.
Oh, okay. So you're thinking like, why didn't Thor just immediately go like, grab it? Yeah, that is a fair point. I mean, I don't know. Maybe like Gor.
Because Stormbreaker doesn't have the condition of someone having to be worthy to hold it. So it makes sense that Gor can hold it, but what I don't understand is why Thor can't call it back to him.
I really want to hear more of your thoughts on this than mine, but do you think Thor is a joke? Do you think that the way they're handling him is a little disrespectful? Because we kind of talked about it a little bit, where it's like, dude, this guy is going through so much. He lost his mom. He lost his dad. He lost his kingdom. He lost his hammer. He lost his ex-girlfriend. Well, then girlfriend. And now he's an uncle. So do you think...
the greatest loss of all.
It is a little off-putting that they are taking probably the most, next to Wanda, the most stress-induced, most understanding character of like why they probably wouldn't be in a good place. Do you feel like they're kind of undercooking that element of, man, I would really like to see this more thought-provoking side of Thor? Or do you think this, and this is kind of like in my vein for this film personally, I think comedy is a way of pushing people away or a way of masking what you're truly feeling. And that's kind of honestly a little bit of the vibe. Not overall. I think Thor is just kind of a dumb guy sometimes, and that's just who he is. He's a very funny, very lighthearted man. Like, that's who he wants to be. And I like that. But I feel like he's also masking what he truly feels with jokes. And I think I like that direction. But do you feel that same way? Or do you feel like Thor is just the butt end of the joke. He is just not the same guy who he was before. Love to hear your thoughts on that.
A joke, no, but a bit of a punching bag, like you said. He's lost like everything and everyone, or most things and most ones, and like having them kill his lover in this movie. I love how much closure the Valhalla post-credit scene gave. I thought it was super sweet and really cool to have her reunite with Heimdall. But he's like, I really haven't figured out exactly what. When I saw the trailers for this movie, I kind of thought this was going to be like his healing journey. Like his kind of him healing from all the trauma that's come upon him through the past conflicts. But instead, it was just kind of like him getting more of it.
Yeah.
And I think it was positing the idea that, like, he will find healing through raising Gor's daughter. Which kind of leads me into one of the things that I felt like Thor was completely in the wrong about in this movie. And I mean, like...
That's what I wanted to hear, yeah.
Pretty in the wrong. I would have been fine... So the idea that Thor can just, like, pass his power off to other people when he, like, gives all the powers to the kids creates a real big continuity problem. Because the movie doesn't do anything to tell us that that's, like, a new skill he picked up or learned. Because if he had done that, like, for Infinity War or Endgame...
Yep, imagine all those Wakandans where it's like...
Oh my gosh, game over.
Yeah.
Game over. There's no way. There's no way. So that was just kind of like a, could you do this all along type of thing? Because if you could, like, you really could have done some serious damage a long time ago. It felt really bizarre. All the Avengers could have had out of nowhere.
Yeah, like imagine all the Avengers during certain moments. Like that really could have just saved up a lot of time.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a power he had in the comics or what. The other thing was that if he could do that, it's fine that he did that so that the kids could stay safe. He should not have had them charge into battle. So, like, absolutely not. He should not have. He should not have done that. And
that was just one of those moments where I just turned my brain off. Honestly, I was like, "This is ridiculous."
Like, you have to, in a way. And I was like, I have no reason to believe that Thor did not just knowingly lead some kids to their actual deaths. Like, the movie's positing that every single one survived, but I was like...
But you have to think about that, too. When you think about it more, it's like, so every single kid believes they have the power of Thor. Every single kid believes that it's... When you think about it more, it's more... It just kind of...
I mean, the way they play it is like those kids know that, like, something has taken over their soul. Like, they play it like, oh, I know I have the power to do this now. I guess I just had no reason to believe that Thor could not win that fight on his own, and I felt like he needlessly endangered children.
I still wish there was more moments where I felt emotions, where I honestly, and I said this in my non-spoiler review, I love to cry. I look forward to crying in movies. Well, that's what I mean. Not crying in general, but when I go see a movie and I know there's probably going to be an emotional punching part, I look forward to feeling those emotions, and I really didn't feel it when Jane died. I felt like that was a character moment where I should be weeping. But I think because of how high energy the film was, like there was so much going on. I'm laughing. I'm laughing at the hilarious goats that scream throughout the entire film. I'm laughing at the camaraderie between Valkyrie, Jane, and Thor, and how Thor has to figure out his relationship with Jane and even his relationship with Stormbreaker, and balancing out all of these things, and then including a villain like Gor, where he's super just... Oh my God. I don't want to say he's psychotic, but he's definitely menacing. He is one of the most menacing villains in the sense of presence. I just wish we got a little bit more of that. But overall, I still liked it. I just wish there was just a little bit more substance to the plot.
Yeah. Also, Also, the movie has a ton of fake out deaths. Zeus gets hit with a lightning bolt and lives. Gor stabs Valkyrie. She lives. And
Korg.
Korg gets hit with a lightning bolt and falls completely apart, but apparently they don't even say how he got put back together. He just did and met Dwayne. He got hit by a lightning bolt and his body completely apart. So apparently the sentience of them is entirely in the front of their face, where their eyes and mouth are. Okay, whatever. And he lives. Like I said, they don't even say how he got put back together. They don't. They do nothing to clue us back into how he's A-okay again. Back to what he was. The only death they didn't fake out were Gor's and Jane's. But they tease like a bunch of... They Tobey Maguire'd us 3 times in this movie. 3 times they needlessly stab someone just to have them not die, just for all of us like, oh.
What are your final thoughts? And then what would you give it out of 10?
It's good. It's fun. Go watch it. Some parts turn your brain off. Thor endangers a bunch of children, but turn your brain off. And and don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm probably in the mid to high 7s range or something like that. I had a fun time. My favorite character were the goats.
Yes.
Russell Crowe played a very strange Zeus.
Yes, he did.
I was like, is he Italian? I wasn't totally sure.
I was like, is he supposed to be? I thought he was Russian for a second. I was like,
I wasn't sure what the accent was that they were trying to pin down. Because and I'm not gonna blame Russell Crowe for that entirely, because at the end of the day, the director's like, cut, that's the one. Unless Taika was just like, I don't know what to do anymore.
It's a fun film, yeah, and I share almost the same score with you. For right now, still gonna go watch it a second time on Sunday. I would give it an 8. I really was struggling between a 7.5 or an 8, 8.5. I know it was going to be around that range, but I would give it an 8. I felt really good. I had a smile on my face, and I just loved the style of Taika Waititi. I think, sometimes this comedy can be a little bit too heavy-handed at times, but majority of the time it works for me, and he does really do a good job of handling character arcs, especially when it came to the moments between Jane and Thor. I really loved their relationship, the origin of Gor, this new character we've never seen before. I thought he did a really good job showcasing this guy we've never seen, never heard of, and I bought into it. So yeah, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. I think if you're a Marvel fan, you're gonna like this. But I think if you are not a fan of Taika Waititi, you might want to sit this one out, because it's honestly a film that you could probably skip. And I say that in a this is the really final thing that I want to say, and I kind of mentioned this in my non-spoiler review, but I really want to make sure I say this again, because I fully believe this, where people are saying, why can't this movie just be a movie, in the sense of it's just a self-contained narrative? Why does it feel like it has to tease the Justice League, Dawn of Justice? Why does it have to tease for a second part of a film? Why can't a movie, why does it have to feel like it has to, involve all these multiple different layers, and the movie forgets to be its own story, and it becomes a tune in next year or next 2 to 3 years? And I understand that. But now, people are literally complaining about this for Thor: Love and Thunder right now. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything great. It doesn't really do anything great for the MCU as a whole. It doesn't really move anything. You could honestly skip it, because they don't really tease anything for the greater future. Do you want a movie that is essentially a tease of other films, or do you guys want an actual movie that is self-contained, that actually has a plot that if you just watch the film, you don't have to worry about the next sequel? Honestly, if that movie, the way it ends, besides the post-credit scenes, the way it ends, the final shot, yeah, I want another Thor movie, and we're obviously going to get it. I thought it was such a great ending, where in the sense of like, yeah, that had a beginning, a middle, and end, and I'm fine if they never made another one. It had a solid ending. But for some reason, fans are like, no, but this doesn't connect to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This doesn't connect to Loki and Kang. What? And you know, maybe I'm being a little bit of a jerk because this is the MCU, right? It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't hate anybody. I love all fans, except if you're rude, then you need to take yourself and leave, because I don't accept rudeness in this community. We are all sharing our own opinion, and just because my opinion is not your opinion doesn't mean we can't still have a civil discussion. And I think that's the beauty of film, guys. So whether you like this movie, whether you hate this movie, whether you love it even more than me, shoot, I don't know. The most important thing that I want to do is make sure you drop your thoughts down in the comments section below, because I genuinely want to have conversations with you guys. I think it's awesome. And don't worry, I'm not going to get mad at you if you're like, this movie was a 4 out of 10. This movie was a 2 out of 10. I might be a little bit sad if you say it's a 2 out of 10. Like, that's really low. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, most importantly, do not forget to be blessed.